Well, he was quite a vibrant young man. He was pretty outgoing, was adventurous. He was very much into collecting cars. In his 19 years, he had 11 vehicles. 11 vehicles, which included a caravan, a boat, 3 or 4 motorbikes and a scooter, and the rest were cars or vans. Unfortunately, the recession started and he lost his job, and that was probably the start of his downfall. He did suffer from eczema quite badly, and he did have about 3 weeks prior to his death of eczema where we had to get him bandaged, and it was that bad. That often happened at this change of seasons, but also it's stress related. And he wasn't enjoying his new job, and there was a fair amount of stress from that. He'd come home every day, disgruntled about that. So, he was in a relationship, and, how he was going to be from there on, shortly, it was coming into summer, short sleeves and things like that, he was quite conscious of. Well, the evening before he took his life, he went out with you to take a barbecue to Peter's uncle's house.
Yeah, that was actually the day, yeah.
Yeah, and he was on a real high. He was, let's do this, Dad, we'll attach it this way. And whereas before, if Peter had asked him to do that, he'd be like, oh, jeez, do I have to? But he was really happy to oblige, and they'll get on really well, weren't you?
Yeah, the day Simon took his life, that's probably the happiest I've seen him for a long time. Yeah, as Vicky said, he was a real jovial and happy, and he just was just bouncing and full of life, and as if he knew his time was up, and that was it.
He'd made his decision.
Yeah.
He was sitting on the couch, and I thought, Simon's home again. He's still home. And he was kind of just sort of sitting on the couch, kind of looking a bit vacant. And we said, what are you doing? Are you not going out? And he goes, oh, yeah, I think I'll go out soon. So we just mucked about with what we were doing, and I just bought a brand new cell phone, so I wanted to be home on time to get it off the charger. And he said to me, can I have your old cell phone, Mum? I said, yep, you can. And next thing he said, I'm going out now. I said, right. He was going to his girlfriend's. The last thing I said to him was, make sure you wear a sweatshirt, it's cold out there. And he said, yep. And he just sort of stood at the door and said, yep, see you later. See you later, Mum. And that was it. About probably 10 o'clock, so I went to just clear the table, and we'd got a new telephone book that day. And I noticed I could see these indentions. Peter had just gone to bed. I see these indentions in the front of the book, like someone had written on it. And I thought, well, that's really strange. There's a lot of writing there. If Simon had been the only one home, Courtney was actually staying at a friend's. And I thought, if he's written something on there, that's a hell of a lot of writing for him, because a 19-year-old boy writes a sentence. So from what I could make out, I put a piece of paper over it and just lightly went with a pencil over the top so I could see the indentations. And the paper had obviously moved while he was writing, but from what I could make out, dear Mum, Dad and Courts. And then there was a few other words like watching you from above and love you always and that sort of thing. And then I realised this is not a normal note. So I rushed into Peter and said, I think Simon's going to commit suicide. And he was, what? Don't be stupid. Can't be. So we rang the police, rang his girlfriend, and couldn't get her for ages. And she rang a couple of she hadn't seen him, she rang a couple of his friends as well, and he had actually rung a couple of his friends and said, you've been great mates. And they said they wondered then what the heck he was on about. Simon hadn't come home at night, and I knew I could feel that he had actually passed, but the next morning when everybody was out looking for him, our friends were out looking for him, police were out looking for him, and I waited back here, and everybody just came around, and it was fantastic. So there was a lot of people here when we were told. But as far as professional support, we had victim support come to us, but to be honest, that wasn't really what we needed, because it wasn't a suicide trained sort of victim support person. And to be perfectly honest, unless you've actually been down that path, you don't know. The grieving is the same for all death, but suicide grief is totally different. It's something that they have chosen to do. It's not an accident, or it's not something that they've died of some illness or any other death. It's totally different. It took me a few weeks to be able to go to the supermarket without, not wanting to look at people, because I didn't want to see the pity in their eyes, because you're actually dealing with other people's reactions more than what you're dealing with your own grief. because people don't know what to say. And so, you know, although they mean well and they come up to you, you might be in a certain headspace at that time, and then it just drops you again. And you're dealing with how their reaction is to the situation rather than how you're coping yourself.
My workmates talk about children, 21st, things like that. I find it very hard. Men need to talk more. I think it's that Kiwi thing for men. We don't speak, and if we do talk, we will probably tend to talk to our workmates, to males, you know. But we do need to talk a little bit more. But if you do speak to somebody, you do feel a weight off your chest, and you think, you know, that was actually quite good. I have spoken to a couple of my male workmates at work, and I have felt better. And they'll quite often come up and ask how I'm going, and sometimes my team leads will come up at work and how you going, and then I can talk about it, and I find that quite good. But I wouldn't approach someone else and, hey, I want to, you know, talk about this. But don't hold everything in, because it only gets worse. Don't bottle it up and let it boil. Even your closest friends, your circle of friends, your mates, speak to them about it. And, you know, if you're not feeling too good, take a drive around to your mate's place and say, hey, you know, I just need to talk, and, you know, I'm not doing too well today, sort of thing, and I need to. And your partner, draw off your partner and your partner and your other children, and if you can, just try and speak a little bit more. Don't try and hold everything in. But unfortunately, that's a male way.
I think at that point that it happens, I believe that it's just a crucial timing like that. It's just like a chemical change, and suddenly, right, I'm doing it now. And who knows? It might not meant to have happened. He may have meant to go so far and not carry on. And a lot of people have said that. You know, that maybe it wasn't meant to happen. But I believe with Simon, because he was a determined young person, and when he did something, when he said he was going to do something, he did it. Whether we liked it or not, he did it. And I think that once he made up his mind, that was pretty much it. There'd be no turning back. It's being in tune really with each other, and being able to address the issues that are happening at the time, and trying to find a solution rather than thinking, oh no, I just can't cope with it, I'm going to end my life. And also a lot of things comes from peer pressure these days with the media, Facebooking, you know, texting. You know, there's some pretty nasty stuff out there, and I think if you're told something often enough, you believe it. So, you know, I just think it's such a dangerous world that we're living in at the moment for teenagers.
A likeable rogue is probably the best way to describe him. He was very athletic, very sporty child, quite talented, could play any sport very well, always made the rep teams with rugby. Loved his family very much. You know, he never missed Mother's Day, birthday, Christmas, always made an effort to come out, and you know, he got upset if he couldn't buy something for his sisters, you know, for their birthdays or something like that. But you know, he mischievous little toad at times, as most teenage boys are. He'd been getting himself into a wee bit of trouble hanging around with the wrong people and just letting himself be swept along, and just he was a lost soul for a while there, and was, you know, one place to another, and just never really settled into anything in particular. I mean, he was, you know, if he had a bit of a job, he, you know, stuck at it. He was doing army basic training type thing with the academy that was running in Timaru at the time, and he really enjoyed that physical aspect of it, and was looking at trying to join the army later on. But yeah, he was really cut up by the fact that he couldn't understand why Simon died. Just why, Mum? He had so much. You know, he had the boys at that age are all they live in the moment, and it's all about possessions, you know. And to him, Simon had everything. He'd seen his life was going somewhere, as Brock was only just starting to settle down and settle into normal adult life, you know, raising up to, you know, coming up to that age. And he just couldn't understand why Simon would do this. You know, I could see he was just totally devastated. And we spoke to him, my mum spoke to him lots when he was, you know, he'd go down and see his nana and stay with her for a bit, you know, and she talked to him. And we kept saying, you know, things always are darker before the dawn. The day before he died, you know, he came and see me at work with a girlfriend of his, and we had lunch together and a coffee and talking, and, you know, bugger Simon, Mum, bugger him. And I said, yeah. I said, he's ripped his mother's heart out. I said, I go see Vicky. I said, there's nothing there. I said, she's just a soul. I said, he's just left everyone devastated, but he had so much, Mum. And I said, yeah, but that's not everything. Possessions and money aren't everything, mate. You know, you'll get there. We did talk to him, but, you know, I don't know. I think it was a spur of the moment thing. He came in and seen our dogs. We had 2 staffies. He loved the dogs to pieces. Come in, he seen them, hung out at home for a bit. We'd no idea he was there. It was like early hours of the morning, and then he just left. He didn't leave us a note. Yeah, he's seen how upset we were. He's seen how upset Simon's other mates were. He knew how bad he felt. I didn't find out till after Brock's funeral that he was actually seeing a counsellor at the time, that he was having depression issues. If I had been aware of that, you know, I probably wouldn't have let him out of my sight. But he was coming and seeing me for 3 or 4 hours a day. Like I said, in the time between Simon's death and Brock dying, he was at home every day, or seeing his nana, or he was around here. He was hardly ever alone. So what caused it, I could never know. But, you know, if I'd known that he was, you know, already seeing a counsellor because he was feeling a bit depressed about things, then yeah, I would have done more maybe. Would have it changed the fact? I don't know. Once people who want to do this, who make their minds up, they do it. You can't stop them. Those that have got enough, I don't know, I wouldn't call it common sense, because I mean, I suffer from depression off and on myself, and you do get low and you think that people are better off without you. You know, you go away, just get out of it. And that's how your mind is thinking. And, you know, if you can get and talk to people before that stage, then yeah, you've got a good chance. But those that really want to do this and want to leave us, you know, Brock just proves it. You can't stop them. He had obviously decided at some stage that night that no, I'm not, you know, I'm just causing hassle for people being here. You know, he didn't like upsetting me. You know, he'd do things, get in trouble. I'd have the police knocking on the door and looking for him for some driving offence or something, you know, and I'd ring him on the, leave a message and you little shit, you know, the police have been here again. And he'd, oh, I'm sorry, Mum, I'm really sorry. You know, he hated upsetting me. And he obviously felt that he was better off not putting that stress. But they don't look into the future, even though he's seen, like I said, the devastation at Simon's funeral. It wasn't enough. I look back now and I think, you know, that last time he came and see me and had lunch with me, and he, you know, had said 2 or 3 times, like I said, bugger Simon. Why? I think back then that, you know, maybe that was his way of reaching, trying to ask for answers and get some help for himself. I mean, hindsight's a wonderful thing, and, you know, I'd swap everything to go back and get those boys back. You know, I'd trade places with them in a heartbeat. It's horrific. And I feel bad because I wasn't able to help him get over Simon's death. I don't remember, like the first few days is still quite a blur. I think you shut down in some aspects. My first thought were for Vicky and Pete. It was, oh my God, they've just buried their son. Now they've got to deal with this. You know, my thoughts were initially to everybody else. What is everybody else? And that was it. You don't think of yourself. And then Ashley had just started work at a new job. It was her first day, and of course the texting started. Oh, I've just heard these rumours, and it was like, oh. And then Vicky runs in the door, and I've got supplies, she says, and she's got tea bags and tissues. A bit of a light relief, and then we just sat there and cried. A lot of support from my family and friends, which was good. And unfortunately, we had Vicky and Pete. We could talk with them. They knew exactly how we were feeling. I decided with Vicky and some other ladies that to do this as we felt there's a need for it. We want to be able to support anybody else if they need it to go through this and to get the message out there, because it's not only about supporting people, it's about prevention, and essentially we all would love to see the suicide rate come down. You've got to be there, you've got to talk. It doesn't matter, it might seem a massive problem to you. As soon as you share that and talk to somebody, it doesn't seem as bad. You've voiced it out. And then it's like, oh well, it's actually not that bad when I say it out loud. Whereas if you keep it inside, you're just festering it away, and it just keeps boiling up and boiling up.